I want to ask you personally, because you have obviously had this inclination towards mysticism and spirituality, and now stepping into the dragon's den of politics, do you not feel at times paralyzed or crippled approaching the seemingly insurmountable amount of institutionalized corruption that you so passionately want to transform?
Martin Luther King said, we must have quantitative changes in our circumstances and qualitative shifts in our souls. It's a yin and a yang. You are here in this beautiful place. The environment created very peaceful, but somebody actually had to take a hammer to a nail to put those things on the wall. Somebody had to actually put those things up, and that's beautiful too. The physical execution of what had to occur to create this non-physical environment, the relationship between those two is part of the beauty of the human experience. It is both, right? So that's what politics should be. Politics should be that, yes, it's external execution, but that's got its beauty as well. So you ask me, do I mind the corruption?
Do you feel sometimes paralyzed by it when you approach?
I feel heartbroken by it. I feel hurt by it. And I'm definitely informed by it. For instance, they think what we're talking about here is nonsense. You and I know what they're talking about is nonsense. So that was the first hit, just the derision and the mockery, which is why we've hung out in our own tribe all these years. We were fine with the fact they didn't even want to talk, about us, acted like we weren't there. Fine. Now that through my candidacy, there's some making of this known, the derision, the mockery, which isn't just of me, it's of you and any of us who read these millions of books. I love how somebody said to me the other day, not to me, but in an article I read, he was talking about my candidacy. He said, well, I just wish we could have a movement leader. They don't even get this is as big a movement as anything they've got going on. Look how many podcasts we are. Look how many books we are, excuse me, right? Okay, that's number one. Now, what I am realizing is that if you actually stay around, they thought they could get rid of you just by mocking you and making fun of you and calling you woo-woo and crystal person. Then if you say, well, no, actually, I'm going to hang around because this needs to be done and said, they come after you full frontal attack. Is it paralyzing? It's not paralyzing, but it's painful. I'm not going to let it paralyze me. I don't know how to ever forgive myself. And I think that we have to create a template of possibility here so that hopefully I will hear more people in our I hope I will be up in a place like this and maybe I will today hear one of you say, I'm running for city council in Topanga. When I ran for Congress, by the way, I did win Topanga.
Shocker.
I won the cool places.
Right. I see that for sure happening. I love what you're speaking to, and I think a lot of people have this romanticized notion of spirituality, of attaining this bliss state, and then you could just disappear into the beaches of Hawaii. But there comes a point, especially as you grow your awareness, that the amount of pain and vitriol and bigotry that's out there, the pain of witnessing that far outweighs the comfort of staying in your own little bubble of idealism. And so I would love for you to share more about the privilege and the weight of responsibility.
Well, first of all, I think it's important to know that there is no serious spiritual path anywhere that gives any of us a pass on addressing the suffering of other sentient beings. This is just a new spiritual capitalist concoction that came about. It's really with this white bread spirituality that's really a pseudo-spirituality that came around in the last few years when people realized how much money there was to be made and all this. So you just only talk to people about themselves because anything else makes them uncomfortable, and that's what they want to buy tickets for, blah, blah, blah. And that's just what happened. And it's particularly painful to me when I see it projected onto me that I'm one of those, because I'm the one who's been in the movement saying no from the beginning because of my experience with people with AIDS. Now what's happening? People aren't stupid. And people are standing on that beautiful beach in Hawaii. And many of them, we have a shadow side of our own, we have the ditzy shadow side of our community, but that's not who our community is. Our field, our tribe, whatever. People who read books on Buddhism, who meditate, who do all the things you and I are talking about, also realize that climate change has already reached a crisis, catastrophic point. people who are into the things we're into also realize I can't just drink green juice. There's PFAS in the water. They're poisoning the food. I can't get everything at Whole Foods. And even if I can afford it, what about the people who can't? So I think that that's already happening. This is not a moment. Sometimes when people say to me, Marianne, you shouldn't run for president. You should just help lift consciousness. Consciousness has been lifted. If that weren't happening, your podcast wouldn't exist. You are actually not so much bringing people as maintaining and expanding, eliciting an audience that's here now. But the point is not to uplift consciousness. You can even see if you can see in poll after poll, the American people are a little bit left of center. We're decent people. You actually see in polls. The problem is the sclerotic political system that actually, particularly through the undue influence of money, i.e. corruption, really sits on top of the will of the people. So I just don't know what we can do except get in there. I mean, we can talk about it all day, but at a certain point, we have to get in there. We have to, I've advised presidents. I've advised senators. I haven't advised presidents. I've advised a president. And I've advised senators. And at a certain point, you think to yourself, I'm tired of advising you. Just get up and let me sit there.